More sweets for the holiday. First, we're going to start off with butter, which I think is a very good place to start. We're going to put an entire stick of butter in there, then half a cup of brown sugar, okay? Going to put that on the eye, simmer it for about 20 minutes until we've got this beautiful caramelized mixture here. Next, what we're going to do is give it a little bit of spice up, if you don't mind me saying so. Some ground cinnamon first. We're going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of that in there. Beautiful. We got a little bit of vanilla flavoring coming up next. You can use the good stuff or you can use whatever you got available. 100% fine. We're going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of that in here as well. Beautiful. Now, once that's in there, we're going to give it another good stir. We want to make sure we keep it stirred up while it cools because we do not want it congealing before we're finished with it. Next up, we're going to get our square pan here and we're going to pour this right inside. It's best if you spray this with a non-stick spray before you get started. You know I love that butter flavor, Pam. This stuff is very, very sticky, okay? So make sure you blast that sucker good before we get started. Otherwise, it has a tendency to stick, okay? Now, once it's in the bottom, you're going to make sure you spread it just as well as you can. And again, time is our enemy at this point. We want to make sure we get it very well spread before it cools and becomes difficult to deal with, okay? Because we're working with a square pan, what we're going to do is make sure it goes to the corners and the sides. Going to use our handy dandy trusted rubber spatula because hardly anything will stick to it. Next up, we're going to get a couple of fresh apples. We're going to make sure we peel those and slice them. And then all we're going to do is layer the bottom of our pan in that caramelized sugar right there, just as pretty as you please. I love watching this, y'all. Pardon me for taking just a second. I think this is so fun. I think it's just beautiful to watch. Now then, whenever you get all of those laid down in the bottom of your pan, we're going to put that aside for a second while we get the actual cake part together. A little bit of batter, if you know what I mean. We're going to use a warm, room temperature stick of butter. We're going to put that down into our mixing bowl. And then all we're going to do is blend it up with the hand mixer. Super, super simple. Once we get that nice and whipped, we're going to go ahead and add a few other specials to it. We're going to put in a cup of sugar, and again, we're going to blend it. Now, a lot of y'all ask me why I take time to blend after each ingredient. Some of these cannot be combined in together. They got to go one at a time. Next up, we got 2 eggs. We're going to break those in and drop them in. I love working with a jumbo. Now, if y'all are more of a large or medium type, go for it. If you're going to use mediums, you might want to use 3, just to make sure we got plenty of them, okay? Next up, we're going to put in a little vanilla flavor. I'm going to add an entire teaspoon of that to our mixture. Ooh, yes, just to make sure it's got that beautiful vanilla flavor into it. Going to put a little blender action in there, a little hand mixer. And now we've got this beautiful soft batter now, where before it was a little crumbly. 2 teaspoons of baking powder is going to make sure we get a real nice lift to it whenever we bake. Beautiful. Let's spice it up a little with some ground cinnamon. We're going to add about 1.5 teaspoons of that to our mixture here. There's our teaspoon. Here comes our half. Beautiful. Now, I love these things because all the spices start in like October and they just follow through to the end of the year. Here comes some nutmeg. Love this stuff. But now, hey, be careful. A little dab will do you. 1/4 teaspoon is all you're going to need for that. More hand mixing. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is use our handy-dandy trusted spatula to get all that goodie off the walls of the bowl. Any of our powdered ingredients that are still left, we're going to stir those in, fold them in to make sure they get really well coated with the wet. Next, we're going to add 1.5 cups of flour. Just all-purpose flour will go right in there with everything. Super. And then again, a little bit more hand mixing. Once that's done, we're going to go ahead and get all of those extra dry ingredients off the sides of the bowl, fold them into the batter, and if our batter's just a little bit dry, what we can do is add just a skosh of milk, just a little bit, like maybe a 1/4 cup, just to make sure that what we've got going here isn't going to be crumbly, but instead is going to stay nice and moist. It's going to bake up beautifully right on top of that caramel and that apple base. There we are. A little more mixing. Now we got something we can work with. We're going to bring back our caramel and apple base, and we're just going to go ahead and put this beautiful batter right there on top. I've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees. We're going to leave this in there for about 25 to 30 minutes. Make sure you check in to see if it's going to spring back at you. Whenever it starts to bounce, that's whenever you know you're done. Go ahead and put that inside and be very gentle with it, okay? Because that base can be just a little bit fragile. Those apple slices are just stuck into the caramel, and the caramel's cooled and it has made a lot stickier base, but we don't want those to pull up into the batter. We want to have two very distinct layers. Now with this batter, we're going to go to the corners and the sides just like we always do, just to make sure we've got a perfect topping for that beautiful caramel apple base. Oh, yes, please. Now what we're going to do is just take this entire gorgeous mixture and throw it into the oven. Again, 25 to 30 minutes. And I wish you'd look at that stunning piece of dessert. We're going to flip that over on a decorative serving plate. 1, 2, 3. Boom. It's a beautiful, delicious dessert, but if we'd been just a little more generous with our nonstick spray, we could have got it all out at once. Still good, though. Yes, please.